Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
WMAL. 7:06 on O'Connor and Company this Friday in your nation's capital as we wrap up a very busy week and send you into what should be a beautiful weekend once these apparently tornadoes pass by.
Yeah.
Today, coming up at 7:35, Joe Concha on the media. 8:05, we'll talk to Hung Cao, who served valiantly in the United States Navy. We'll get his reaction to Tim Walz's apparent stolen valor claims. And then at 8:35, Sal Vulcano, comedian from Impractical Jokers, who's coming to town. I'm Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka.
Happy Friday.
Well, thanks, Patrice. Happy Friday to you, too.
Yes.
It's about policy. It's not about her. I think she's incompetent because I've watched her. She destroyed California. She destroyed San Francisco. Everything she's touched has turned to bad things. I'm not going to use foul language.
We know what he meant, though. But I do love that it's not about her. It's about policy. Joining us right now is our buddy Charlie Spiering. He's a political reporter for the Daily Mail, also author of the book Amateur Hour, Kamala Harris in the White House. And boy, oh boy, hopefully you're a man in demand here since you wrote about Kamala Harris well before she was anointed the nominee for the Democrats. Charlie, good talking with you. Thanks for joining us.
You bet, Larry. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's very surreal to see everything taking place and seeing her seize the nomination, but has not really been on camera to sort of reassure people that she's up for the job.
Yeah, and, the Washington Post headline on yesterday's press conference from Donald Trump is, Trump delivers meandering press conference, which, fine. But this wasn't even really about what Donald Trump said. It was about the fact that Donald Trump did it, the fact that he stood there for over an hour without a teleprompter, without a script, without preordained reporters being selected. And he just said, yeah, you got questions? Let's go. It really does show a stark contrast, but I don't think your colleagues in the media really care at this point. They're there to help Kamala.
Yeah, certainly. A lot of White House reporters were like, oh, yes, remember this? When the president used to have press conferences. It was a throwback to the golden era when we could ask and answer questions and go back and forth with the president, Haven't seen that from Biden and certainly not from Kamala Harris. There's a lot of celebration about her new, vivaciousness and her new youth and energy. And today, she's smiling. There's joy in the campaign. Well, for a reporter, that's not very useful unless you're just going to write about her smiling and her joyful campaign. There's not very much else to write about. Yeah. So she's got to come out there. She's got to start talking to reporters. She's got to start taking questions about important issues because right now it's, and then Trump admits he's still in a honeymoon phase. So it's longer than my honeymoon was, but here we go.
Well, so speaking of the honeymoon being over, what do you think is the strategy that the Harris campaign is implementing here? Because it seems like maybe they're going to wait till maybe September to actually start doing any sort of media interviews. Is that going to be acceptable to anyone in the press corps for them to wait that long to put her in front of a microphone and have her take unscripted questions? Or do you think there's going to be something that forces the campaign's hand and forces her to actually step up and do something that's not scripted?
Well, if you're the Harris campaign, why would you go out unscripted and take questions from the press? Your media, your press is pretty much pitch perfect. Everyone's just marveling at the miraculous turnaround of Harris, who was once the most unpopular vice president in modern history, who also, there was there's at least chatter behind the scenes among Democrats about whether or not they should replace her on the ticket. And now suddenly she's the heir apparent and the product of a celebration of the news media. Why would any campaign try to mess that up? They're going to ride this train as long as it'll keep going.
Yeah, and I want to remind everybody, coming up in 30 minutes, we're going to check in with Joe Concha, too, who really covers the media and the hypocrisy of the media on issues like this. Because as we've got Charlie here, who's a political reporter and has been so with The Examiner and Breitbart and now Daily Mail, I'd love for you to sort of reflect on the substance of the press conference yesterday. Was there anything of note that stood out to you? I know that he's agreed now or announced 3 debates on 3 different networks, ABC, Fox, and NBC, and Kamala Harris has only agreed to the September 10th debate. Was there anything else here that you saw that was of import or maybe sort of sticks out in terms of how Donald Trump is looking at the next 90 days of this campaign in the final stretch?
Yeah, it showed to me that he's clearly worried about the trajectory of the Harris campaign, and he's seriously concerned about trying to shake up the race and reassess it on his terms. Really trying to grapple with it because everybody, he's hearing from his Republican consultants, don't get personal, stay on policy differences. But the thing about presidential races is they are personal. Mm-hmm. And so Trump is trying to find a way, and Trump, a big part of why he was so successful in politics is because he made it personal. He was able to sort of savage his rivals and bring them down and push himself up by, telling it like it is and earning the respect and love of his supporters. So I still think that he's struggling to sort of find the right balance, to find the proper way to attack Harris in a personal way mm-hmm. without coming off as a bully. And I think it's real. You could see him thinking on his feet as he was doing the press conference, trying to, hit Harris for her her lack of qualifications, while at the same time trying to find the right way to attack her. I think it's still up in the air, and he hasn't settled on a certain attack.
We focus a lot on the top of the ticket, but what's going on down ballot? Is there a sense among Democrats that maybe they'll be able to hold the Senate? And is there any energy around them potentially taking the House, or is everything pretty much baked in from before the Harris effective nomination to the top of the ticket?
Yeah, I think that Democrats are still running scared. They don't want to be too optimistic about their situation at this point, even though the expectations on the top of the ticket have surpassed their wildest dreams at this point. I still really think that they have realized that they have a lot of work to do to energize Democrats, to get them out to the polls for some of these, for this, why is Donald Trump going to Montana? Well, a huge part of that is because he wants to see John Tester get defeated at the ballot box and have a Republican replace him there. So. Mm-hmm. This is sort of the, Trump going to Montana, that's not a sign that he's worried about losing Montana. It's a sign that he really wants to see that seat. He really wants to see Tester replaced.
Charlie, did you just say that, Trump's being advised not to make it personal about Kamala Harris? Because, listen to this moment from the press conference yesterday.
Well, I know Willie Brown very well. In fact, I went down in a helicopter with him. We thought maybe this is the end. We were in a helicopter going to a certain location together, and there was an emergency landing. This was not a pleasant landing, and Willie was he was a little concerned. So I know him pretty well. I mean, I haven't seen him in years, but he told me terrible things about her. But this is what you're telling me anyway, I guess.
I mean, it's got to be, if he's really trying to be on his best behavior and not make it personal, it's pretty hilarious to see him wrestle with moments like that. And obviously you can tell he's going right up to the brink and then pulling himself back.
Yeah, that's, certainly his consultants are telling him not to make it personal, but, this is good. This is Donald Trump. So it is interesting, the story about Willie Brown. I'm not sure about the helicopter story. I think Willie Brown came out and said that Trump was making it up. But I do note.
How do you make that up? How do you make up a story? It's not like he's saying his uncle was eaten by cannibals in World War II.
Well, yeah, that's true. But Willie Brown and Kamala Harris did actually fly up to Trump Tower in New York. There's a very interesting anecdote about that. And back when Trump was real estate developer, he sent his private jet to bring Willie Brown to Trump Tower for a meeting about real estate. I don't think Kamala Harris made it to the meeting at Trump Tower, but she was on the Trump plane with Willie Brown at that point during the year that they dated.
He literally wrote the book about Kamala Harris, and he's now covering politics. A pretty impressive year in politics, by the way, for the Daily Mail. He's Charlie Spiering. Charlie, thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
as
Charlie.
always.
You bet. Thanks for having me.